And also I was at the Walmart, the new store grand opening. We had several people there. Ryan was there, the chief was there. It was a good time. I had a lot of people there. If you get a chance, I think the Wienermobile is still up there if you want to go see that, if you have a desire to do that. If not, I have a photo over there you can have. Today is November 18th, the 322nd day of the year. It's only 43 days left. I think somebody said there's like 36 days till Christmas or something like that. It's hard to believe. It's also Mickey Mouse Day. Mickey Mouse was first appeared publicly in a short film called Steamboat Willie on November 18th, 1928. And that's the day they recognize as his birthday. I think he came out earlier than that, but that was the recognized birthday. It's also National Princess Day. Everyone has a favorite princess, real or fake. And dreams of being treated like one. So it's National Apple Cider Day, and it's cold weather. It's probably something to warm it up. It'd be nice. It's International Stand Up to Bullying Day. This day is observed twice a year, February and November. Probably should be observed every day, in my mind. It's also, we celebrate Married to a Scorpio Support Day. And since I am married to a Scorpio, I think we need more than just one day for support. It's National Vichyssoise Day. And tomorrow we're celebrating Have a Bad Day Day, National Play Monopoly Day, and National Adoption Day. This day in history, in 1820, Antarctica was sighted by U.S. Navy Captain Nathaniel B. Palmer. In 1861, the first provisional meeting of the Confederate Congress was held in Richmond, Virginia. And in 1872, suffragette Susan B. Anthony is arrested by a U.S. deputy marshal and charged with illegal voting. Come a long way. In 1883, there were 4 standard time zones were created for the continental United States, Eastern, Central, Mountain, and Pacific, that replaced over 100 previous time zones. I don't know if you can imagine traveling across the country with 100 different time zones. In 1943, 444 British bombers attacked Berlin. And in 1978, in Jonestown, Guyana, 918 members of the People's Temple are murdered or commit suicide under the leadership of Jim Jones. A couple of important dates in the club. Birthdays, we have Phil Sparks, this is November 25th, and Mark Weinstein is November 24th. Partner birthdays, Jonathan Hebrink's wife, Heather. And member anniversaries, Bob Doyle, 13 years, and Joe Jenkins, 1 year. And another anniversary, Mike and Megan Canada on the 23rd. Got some things out of the news. I chose some interesting news this time rather than just something you normally see. There was an ophthalmologist in California that removed 23 contact lenses from an eye of a patient who forgot to take them out for almost a month. According to the ophthalmologist, the patient put in a new set of lenses for 23 days in a row without ever taking out the previous ones. It turns out the Milky Way is not the only cosmic entity with a chocolatey connotation. More than 60 years after they first discovered, scientists working to understand the structure of a neutron star finally had the perfect point of comparison: chocolate pralines. And also, the deadliest month of in the US is one that heralds the new year. It's January. An average of 251,690 people die every January. So be prepared, that's coming up in a month or so. There's a chain-smoking marathoner who finished in under 3.5 hours as he was chain smoking cigarettes. And he's done that before. His nickname is Uncle Chin. He's a 50-year-old runner who finished in the 574th place, beating nearly 1,000 other runners. And so he actually chain smoked through the whole race. If you've got any old Birkenstock sandals laying around, the ones that Steve Jobs wore were auctioned off for $218,000. And helping themselves to shots of hard liquor, a freshly cooked brunch spread, and several bags of chips, a pair of bold baboons broke into a woman's rental home in South Africa and nearly destroyed her breakfast. And also, scientists have discovered that rats are able to perceive the beat of music and bop their heads along with the rhythm. The music they like is Lady Gaga's Born This Way, Queen's Another One Bites the Dust, Mozart's Sonata for Two Pianos, and Beat It by Michael Jackson. And in honor of our guest speaker today, I thought I'd throw in some facts about flying. First thing I found is airplanes are lightning proof. Now, it might blow out an engine, but it won't hurt you in the plane. I don't think since 1962 they've had one crash because of that. The bathroom door isn't really locked when you go inside. You can unlock the door from the outside because the flight attendants have to be able to get in there in an emergency. Most pilots and co-pilots on major airlines are not allowed to eat the same food as each other. That's in case there's food poisoning. Not all of them get sick. About 1 in 5 people have some form of fear of flying or aviophobia. And if you sit in the back of an airplane, your odds of surviving a crash are 40% higher. Did you know that people living in Xenia cannot be buried in Beaver Creek? No. And why? Wow. They're still alive. A 6-year-old boy called his mother from a friend Charlie's house and confessed he had broken a lamp when he threw a football in their living room. But Mom, he said, bravely, you don't have to worry about it. Another one, Charlie's mother said it's irreplaceable. And a slight misunderstanding here. Bob's wife and Bob started dieting a week ago. His wife proposed that they should have a cheat day today. She brought home a McDonald's hamburger and KFC wings, and Bob brought home his secretary. From his hospital bed, Bob is wondering when men will ever begin to understand women. There was a wife that went to a police station with her next door neighbor to report that her husband was missing. The policeman asked for a description. She said he's 35 years old, 6'4", has dark eyes, dark wavy hair, an athletic build, weighs 185 pounds, is soft-spoken and good to the children. The next door neighbor protested, your husband's 5'4", chubby, bald, and big mouth, and is mean to your children. The wife replied, yes, but who wants him back? Here's a few things that I've questioned from time to time. And I do this one myself. Why do we press harder on remote control when we know the batteries are getting weak? Why does someone believe you when you say there are 4 billion stars, but check to see if the paint is wet? Why doesn't glue stick to the bottle? And why do they use sterilized needles for death by lethal injection? Why doesn't Tarzan have a beard? Why does Superman stop bullets with his chest, but ducks when they throw the revolver at him? And why do kamikaze pilots wear helmets? Is there ever a day that mattresses are not on sale? Why do people keep running over a string a dozen times with their vacuum cleaner, then reach down, pick it up, examine it, and then put it back down and run the vacuum cleaner over it again? If at first you don't succeed, shouldn't you try doing it like your wife told you to do it in the first place? There were two aliens that were flying near Earth. The first one says, the dominant life form here have developed satellite-based nuclear weapons. The second one says, are they an emerging intelligence? The first one says, I don't think so. They've got them aimed at themselves. And I don't know how many of you are engineers in here, but this is a good one for you guys. Two engineering students were walking across campus when one said, where did you get such a great flying broomstick? The second engineer replied, well, I was walking along yesterday, minding my own business, when a beautiful witch flew up on this broomstick. She threw down the broomstick to the ground, took off all her clothes, and she said, take what you want. The first engineer nodded approvingly. Good choice. The clothes probably wouldn't fit anyway. The first grade teacher, Mrs. Brooks, was having trouble with one of her more precocious students. The teacher asked, Harry, what exactly is your problem? Harry answered, I'm too smart for first grade. My sister's in the third grade and I'm smarter than she is. I think I should be in the third grade too. Mrs. Brooks finally had enough. She took Harry to the superintendent's office. While Harry waited in the office, the teacher explained the situation to the superintendent, and he told Mrs. Brooks he would give him a test. If he failed to answer any of the questions, he would remain in the first grade. They brought Harry in, and the superintendent said, what's 3 times 3? Harry says 9. What's 6 times 6? Harry says 36. And so it went for every question that the superintendent asked. Superintendent then looked at Mrs. Brooks. I reckon Harry can go to third grade. But Mrs. Brooks was still skeptical and said to the superintendent, not so fast. Let me ask him some questions. Superintendent and Harry both agreed. And Mrs. Brooks says, what does a cow have 4 of that I only have 2? Harry said legs. Mrs. Brooks, what's in your pants that you have on that I don't have? The principal wondered why she would ask such a question. Harry replied, pockets. And then, what does a dog do that a man steps into? Pants. But now the superintendent is sitting on the edge of his chair, wondering what will come next. And then Mrs. Brooks says, what does a man do standing up, and a woman does sitting down, and a dog does on 3 legs? Shake hands. Principal now trembling with apprehension as Miss Brooks asks the last question. What word starts with F and ends with K and indicates a great deal of heat and excitement? Superintendent was really concerned about this one. And Harry says, a fire truck. Superintendent says, you got to move into the 7th grade because I got the last 7 questions wrong myself. As usual, I'd like to leave you with a couple of positive thoughts. You have the power to accomplish everything you set out to do today. And every day may not be good, but there is something good in every day. Today's fines. If you've ever seen Steamboat Willie, that's $1. If you run a marathon in less than 3.5 hours, that's $1. If you have flown an airplane in the last month, that's $1. If you have ever had fishy swab, that's $1. And if you own a pair of Birkenstocks, that's $1. I know we won't be here next year, so I'd like to wish everybody a very happy Thanksgiving. Next week, what did I say? Okay, next year. We'll be here next year either. Yeah, we won't be here next week, but happy Thanksgiving to everybody. Brandon.
Don, there's something I don't know. I guess the club ending after 50 years. So. Okay, let's see. Happy Bucks. Eric.
I have 3 happy bucks. And the 3 happy bucks is because Matt and I interviewed 3 potential exchange students this past week. And they're getting interviews, district interviews tomorrow. So we may have 3 sponsored exchange students. That could be good. It might be bad if I need room for 3 hosted inbound. So what else we got?
This morning, Chili Chicken said I got to deliver the rotary dictionaries and coloring books to Durham Elementary Schools, 3rd graders and 2nd graders. So that was something that they appreciated.
Wonderful. Rick.
Yeah, I got one. Last night, our own John Adams was awarded the Beaver Creek Chamber of Commerce E.G. Shaw Award, the biggest one we have. That's a great honor. Congratulations.
Anyone else?
Finally, John has one hell of a resume. It took about 15 minutes to get through your resume alone, by the way. That's another thing.
Did you put like Sergeant at Arms on that resume? That probably character. Okay. Take drawing here. I think we're down. We're down to the card's getting pretty thin here. We've got 3, 1, 1, 3, 9, 5. Okay. Let's see, announcements. Does anyone have any announcements for the club?
Somewhere there is a clipboard floating around for, and they kind of back there, for the Christmas basket project. This is actually something each year for 20-some years of Scott Hadley organized, and continuing on this tradition. Brad O'Shaughnessy and I are working on the gifts. We're working with Nancy Hadley through Dots Market to do a basket of food for individuals who have that need in the community. But we really need the club to step up. This project costs about $8,000, a little bit over, and half of that is funded through a district grant. So we need to raise the other half through our club. The clipboard has multiple ways that you can support this project monetarily if you want to make a donation, and you can either write a check or have it billed to your account. And I will work with the parent on making sure that he has a list of who wants to have it billed. We need individuals to help us wrap gifts. The tentative date is on Tuesday, December 13th. I'm just working with Alex to make sure that I can shore up that date at the community room there at Beaver Creek Township. We usually start at 9 o'clock, takes just a few hours. We have it down packed. We have it just like something that we get it out quickly. And then on December 17th, which is the Saturday, we will be delivering the Christmas baskets that day, starting at 8 o'clock at Dots Market in Bellbrook. So you can sign up to deliver, you can sign up to help load cars that day. But we really need your help, so please be sure to sign up.
Okay, I just want to if you want to be deductible, you need to write me a check to the Rotary Foundation of Beaver Creek, get it to me prior to that Saturday, so that I can write the check out of the foundation. If you put it on your bill, you won't see the bill until January 2nd. And it won't be deductible because the Rotary Club is not a 501c3.
Speaking of bills, pay your bills so that way Eric doesn't bring it up in the board meeting, which is immediately following this meeting. So if you haven't paid yet, you log on really quick, pay your bill, and then Eric doesn't have to bring that up during the board meeting. So yeah, but if you want afterwards, there's a board meeting. So please feel free to attend that. And then another reminder, it's not next week, it's 2 weeks from now. There's no meeting next week. Enjoy your Thanksgiving. And then the following meeting will be the club assembly. I urge you all to come. There are multiple things that need discussed, voted on, whatnot. So please make sure that you attend that one. And with that, oh, I just see Joe, we missed a guest here. Right here, Mike Canada. Yeah.
Give a happy welcome to get you.
Hey, Mike, thank you. That's usually what's.
This is Fred doing page on himself. With that, Dawn Adams here for the introduction of our speaker. Is it recording?
So thank you, Rick, for saying that. I had to leave last night, so I didn't even know about it until I saw Rick's email later in the day or the evening. So I appreciate that. In one of my other lives, I'm the president of the Rugby Flyer organization, and that's part of the National Aviation Heritage area. And I've known our speaker for about, I don't know, I guess 5 years, somewhere in that time frame now. And Mackenzie Whitmer is the executive director of the National Aviation Heritage Alliance. The Alliance is a management entity of the National Aviation Heritage Area. It's one of 55 national heritage areas designated by Congress as having a cohesive, distinctive landscape of historic and cultural resources of national importance. The National Aviation Heritage Area shares our nation's aviation story, sustaining the legacy of the Wright brothers and all men and women and flying machines that have changed our world. Mrs. Whitmer works closely with the National Park Service, National Museum of the Air Force, and other aviation heritage organizations and numerous informal partners to leverage cultural heritage as the economic catalyst in the region. Mrs. Whitmer serves on the Wright Dunbar Incorporated Board of Trustees and Economic Development Group in Dayton, and she serves as a volunteer of the Dayton Metro Library Foundation. She is a member of the 2021 Leadership Class Ohio, and she is a graduate of Leadership Dayton Class of 2016. In addition to her work assignments, Mrs. Whitmer manages 2 young youth ball teams in Destination Imagination, the K-12 Creativity STEM program. She is a graduate of Miami University with a BA in History and Political Science and an MA from Wright State in Public History. And she has served in her current role since August 18th and has been with the organization since 2014. So enough about me. Mackenzie Whitmer.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. Happy Friday. We made it. I would like to just take a second. I might need some support I believe I need to have my PowerPoint presentation on this computer. No, my flash is already here.
Oh, sorry.
He already loaded. Eric, the gentleman, Eric, had loaded it. But I needed the rotary stuff to go down, my stuff to come up. Unfortunately, I don't have any folks like Don Adams house to fill the air. So my name is Mackenzie.
Interesting.
And I appreciate this guy's support. Let's hear it for him. It's very
Yeah. I'm not doing a good job though. Yeah, we got back to like my screen. That's great. There we go.
Yeah. And then there's mine.
This one, oh, right there.
That's it. I'm going to apologize to the people who are joining us Zoom. I don't know exactly where I'm supposed to stand so you can see me, but I trust that you can hear me and that you can see these slides. Oh, now I think I know where I'm supposed to look. So welcome to those joining online as well. So as Dawn shared, I am the executive director of the National Aviation Heritage Alliance, which is the nonprofit organization that is the management entity of the National Aviation Heritage Area. That's a lot of words. So with your permission, I'm going to use our abbreviation NAHA, N-A-H-A, interchangeably to both mean the Alliance and the Heritage Area. The Alliance, when it's the Alliance, it's the staff, it's the partners, it's the work, and the Heritage Area is the geographic boundary. When it's nuanced, I'll try to point out. when I'm talking about the Alliance for the area. My goal today is to tell you what a National Heritage Area is, what the work is that we do, and maybe even acknowledge that there's people in this room that are part of the Heritage Area. I see champions for the Heritage Area in this room and partners in this room. So I look forward to the Q&A part, and I look forward to the chit chat that comes after the presentation. Again, a thank you to Don Adams. He shared with you that he has a role at Wright B, and I have to just be honest, with Don Adams and Wright B Flyer, they're just one of the best possible partners you could ever wish to work with. So thank you for your leadership with that group and your friendship, mentorship, and leadership in the Heritage Area, serving as a board member for the Heritage Area as well. So what is a National Heritage Area? Many of you probably have never even heard of the National Heritage Area, maybe other than Rick Brown, before today, right? So as he shared in my bio, a heritage area is designated by Congress for a unique, nationally significant, for its nationally significant qualities and resources. It is a place where there's this combination of either cultural or historical or recreational resources that come together to tell a national story. So none of you in this room are surprised that the National Heritage Area for Southwest Ohio is aviation. If you are surprised, we need to talk later. But what does that mean? What does that mean to be congressionally designated? What is how that came about is in 2004, Congressman Mike Turner and then U.S. Senator Mike DeWine championed legislation with additional state support from state senators like Dave Hobson and others who were serving in 2002 to 2004, championed legislation to create the National Aviation Heritage Area. So what they said, and I think this is a key point, is Congress is not saying go build the heritage area. They're saying you have the assets, you have the resources, you have the story to represent this nationally significant story in aviation. So there's work that we have. They do give us, it is federally designated, authorized, reauthorized, and appropriated to carry out the work of the heritage area. You know parts of the heritage area before I even start talking about the Air Force Museum. Hoffman Prairie Flying Field, we were having a conversation about that at lunch and getting into trouble at Hoffman Prairie, like looking at buildings in the 60s. The heritage area, in essence, is a federal grant program that allows these partners work. Before I get into all the details, I am going to share with you this map, just so you get a sense of this. I hope people online can see this as well. This is a map of the 55 national heritage areas in the United States. And the reason I wanted to share this with you is I wanted you to see that the National Aviation Heritage Area is part of something bigger than even just being the National Heritage Area. It is part of 55 national heritage areas. Now, what you can't see in this nice graphic is the changes over time or the distinct themes that they're talking about. But I can tell you that heritage areas largely came about in the 1980s. The first national heritage area was Illinois and Michigan National Canal National Heritage Corridor. I totally butchered that name, but it starts at Navy Pier and it goes into Illinois. And that was signed in the Reagan administration. And heritage areas, and I'm going to be honest, this is an oversimplification because this is a Rotary lunch and I just ate 3 brownies. This was one of many strategies that the federal government used in the 80s and 90s to bring federal resources into areas that had experienced a loss of manufacturing jobs, a change in industry, and it was one way that they could provide an economic catalyst to a region. Over time, that has changed. It's not necessarily a strategy that's used in that way today, but it's still a way for our congressional leadership to bring resources back to their districts. You'll see that there's a concentration in the Northeast. And you'll also see, you can't really tell on this graphic, but it's also a reflection of congressional leadership. You might say, hey, why does West Virginia have 4 national heritage areas? And I would say, I'll tell you later. No, it's just a reflection of that leadership. At that time, there was a senator named Senator Byrd, and he was really good at championing. I see some nods. I mean, you know that he was really great at bringing resources back to his state. The 4th national heritage area in West Virginia is just recently appropriated under Senator Manchin. All right, so we do Ohio national heritage areas. The other one is Ohio and Erie Canalway. It's up in Cleveland, and it goes down to past kind of Cambridge. They do the towpath trail. They do trail building, talking about canals. Okay, now because we've all had lunch, and because I want to hammer home that this is a program, a bigger part of the program. Here are 6. Nope, I advanced it on my computer and not. There it goes. So here are some of my other heritage areas. I was just talking to Motor Cities National Heritage Areas this morning. Any guesses? Where's Motor Cities National Heritage Area? I see some nods. Yell it out. You're all right. Wide swath of Michigan, headquartered in Detroit. Where is Rivers of Steel?
It's mine.
Oh, you guys are so smart. Just you already look at my dad. Sports other places in this country that can talk about steel, but Congress has designated the heritage area for Rivers of Steel in Pittsburgh. What national coal? Oh yeah. Now someone just said West Virginia with a question mark in their voice. West Virginia. Yes, West Virginia. Has anyone ever heard of Cane River? This was my trick question. Gotcha. Cane River National Heritage Area is one parish, which is what we call one county in Louisiana. Niagara Falls National Heritage Area, because you might say, oh my gosh, why does Niagara Falls need a heritage area? You know, they have Niagara Falls. Millions of people go to see Niagara Falls every year. But Niagara Falls had a huge hydroelectric industry, manufacturing center that had a loss in the 80s and 90s, and they have a heritage area. And then my favorite heritage area, other than national aviation, is silos and smokestacks. Oh, I think I heard someone say it. Now, how did you know that? You've driven by it. You know how I know it? Because they talk about agriculture and I like to eat. All right. Okay. So when you're congressionally authorized, reauthorized, and appropriated, Congress says you need someone to administer that program. So remembering that national aviation is part of a larger program, we are administered through the National Park Service. Last year, the National Park Service had a budget of $3.5 billion. The Heritage Partnership Fund, which is all 55 heritage areas across the country, and National Park Service staff to administer the program, got $28 million. And so then NAHA receives on average about $500,000 a year in a federal appropriation. We do work in partnership with the National Park Service, meaning that we are required to match every federal dollar. So every federal dollar that we use here in that heritage area, we are generating match either through donations or in kind or in partnership projects. Here's our heritage area. Our heritage area is 8 counties. I know this table back here wants me to play the counting game because they are rocking and rolling with all the answers, but I'm just going to tell you what the counties are, because no one loves a speaker more than a speaker who gets you out on time, right? So we do have 8 counties. And you can say them with me. I'm going to go from north to south. We've got Auglaize, Shelby, Miami, Montgomery, Warren, Greene, Clark, and Champaign counties. Those are the 8 counties that are legislated by Congress to be the heritage area. Now, our legislation says that those 8 counties are our core. So what that means is that we can do work outside of our core. If you came to me and said, hey, what is the work of the heritage area? I would say the vast majority is in the core, because those are the partners that we're working with every day. But we do have the opportunity to help our partners like Wright v. Flyer share the Wright brothers across the country and around the world. We help partners go to air shows in Wisconsin every year. So again, that is our geographic footprint. This is the physical heritage area for NAHA. I will also say that we work with our North Carolina partners quite often. I know that people don't love that because rivalry gets a lot of headlines and a lot of clicks, but we love our North Carolina partners. Okay. So all these slides in, I'm just getting to the mission, but the mission is to preserve and develop the assets of the National Heritage Area and promote the heritage and future of aerospace. And these are our designated partners. All right, team in the back. Can you read those from here? Okay, I'm seeing nods, so I will not read them, nor will I take the time to talk about every single one of them. Because if I did, we would be here next Friday, and I heard there's no meeting. So these are designated partners. What does that mean? That means that they were either listed in our legislation or they were identified as key assets in the heritage area when it was created, and they have a seat on the board of directors. There could be people in this room who are involved in these organizations, who have volunteered at the Air Force Museum, who have had a kid or a grandkid go to air camp. It is a privilege to work with these designated partners. And you have to understand that the vast majority of the work of the heritage area is done through these partners. I come and the board of the heritage area sets the table so these organizations can be talking about what they're doing, what they're trying to achieve, so we can collectively advance this region and our community's identity in aviation and aviation heritage. We also have dozens of informal partners. I started to make this slide and then I stopped because I realized that even if you could have read the last slide, if I put every informal partner up here, you wouldn't be able to read it and it would take me a lot of time to type it and there'd be a lot of typos. So I just gave you a couple examples. So these are examples of partners that the heritage area works with that do not have a seat on our board. So we just did a project with Shelby County Historical Society for an aviation exhibit. We support NVRPC and their bike trail system. I know that influences the city of Beaver Creek and Greene County greatly because of their strong trail and park network. We're doing things because we want to advance people to come to this area, use our recreational assets, and visit our sites. One of the most practical ways we do this is we sub-grant money. So as a federal grant, I can use federal dollars to fund projects. So since 2019, we've given away about $200,000. I think we will pass 300,000 this year. We'll be very close if we don't pass 300. So a couple examples of sub-grant projects is Woodland Cemetery. A couple of years ago, they did a partnership with the Garden Club of Dayton, Siebenthalers, their own maintenance crew, and in partnership, we were able to help them re-landscape the Wright brothers grave site and the Paul Lawrence Dunbar grave site. Another example is Wright v. Flyer. It is a privilege to help in the tiny way we can to help that group, that all volunteer group in Miamisburg, building look-alike aircraft for exhibition and educational purposes. And then I'm realizing that you might not be able to see past this podium, but the bottom picture is of Armstrong Air and Space Museum in Wapakoneta. A couple years ago, we helped them acquire that trailer. And then in this past year, we helped them do the wraps of the van. The heritage area will never sustain the Air Force Museum. We will never sustain Carillon Park. What we can do is help them do small projects and programs so they can focus on getting stuff done. Another thing we do is what I call the Special Project Fund. And these are one-time projects. Like the project I just did in Shelby County for their historical site, that's a one-off. We don't have a repeated cycle of doing projects with them. But maybe it's a mural, maybe it's a small beautification thing, maybe it's a trail project. The pictures here are of a mural by World Wayne that we helped a grassroots group of people who wanted to do it, get it done. In the middle, we had some limited merchandise that we created when NASA landed on Mars a couple years ago, and they had named the place where their helicopter flew Wright Brothers Field. So we did some merchandise and used the proceeds of that to support the national park. And another art project there for the Wright Company factory. So again, these are one-time projects. They seed future development. Sometimes they're rendering, sometimes they're feasibility studies, sometimes they're surveys. As long as there's kind of an aviation tie, it advances that whole community identity of aviation and aerospace, we like to be involved. Another part of it is promoting the region. So we want people to come here and spend their tourism dollars. We don't want them to come just to the Air Force Museum. We want them to stay for 2 to 3 days. We want them to stay in the hotels. We want them to eat in the restaurants. We want them to shop at your businesses. We want them to spend their dollars here. So part of our role as the heritage area is to leverage what all of our partners, you know, the Air Force Museum is always going to do their marketing. Air Camp is always going to do their marketing, but we do the collective marketing targeted to group tourism and to convince people to spend a longer time, to go to more than one site on their trip, that they can come here and see the full story. So that's another part of our work. This is a project that I just wanted to mention because when I shared with you that the heritage area was created in 2004 by Congress, in that same piece of legislation, in 2004, there was a call for a study of the Wright Company factory. Now, this picture, if you're not familiar with the Wright Company factory, it could be anywhere in the world, but let me tell you, that's in Dayton. It's in Dayton. And the Wright Company factory is the first purpose-built structure for the aviation industry. In 2004, it was Delphi making parts and pieces for the automobile industry. It was a 54-acre industrial site. And while our champions, while our elected officials, while the National Park Service knew at that time that the original Wright Brothers airplane factory was at this site, it was surrounded by additional industrial buildings. I have not been advancing my note slides, so forgive me for a second while I get to my factory slides. So it has been the mission of the National Aviation Heritage Area to preserve this building. And that has looked like different strategies over different periods of time. In 2004, it was studied by the National Park Service and deemed to be appropriate to be part of the national park here in Dayton. If you have not been to the national park, I encourage you to go see the park rangers. Go to their sites. By 2009, they had finished the study and they put it in the boundary of the national park. in 2009. It's still a working factory. Tens of thousands of people are still making parts and pieces in this factory. And the National Park says, yes, we're going to put it in the boundary. So it's in the boundary park. But we can remember what was happening in our region in 2008, 2009, and a loss of Delphi, who went bankrupt, merged out of bankruptcy. And so that's a long story. Maybe one day I can come back and just tell the right factory story. Or we could go there. That would be super fun. But let's not eat lunch there. A field trip. So the Wright Company factory in 2011 emerged out of bankruptcy in partnership with the state of Ohio. There was a Clean Superfund, Clean Ohio grant. And this is all before my time. And there was, from the very get-go, champions who said this is important. This is important to our region, not just to finish the Wright brothers story, but as a catalyst for what could happen in this West Dayton neighborhood if there is an investment of the National Park Service. So by 2014, there had been demolition of the other buildings. There had been some stabilization of this building. By 2018, the city of Dayton purchased the property. If you have not been out there, you can't see it in this picture, but right over here off this picture, there is a brand new Dayton Metro Library branch there, $12 million, 22,000 square foot library branch. It's gorgeous. I also like to use the parking lot when I go to the factory because it's nice. And so now the National Park Service, it's been in the boundary, but they need to acquire it. So they are in the third year of their acquisition process. I hope that there is a day that Don or someone else here will invite me back to Rotary and I can tell you that we got across the acquisition finish line. That is the goal of the heritage areas, to help the National Park Service get across that acquisition finish line. Maybe in the next year or two. I hate to put timelines on it because as soon as you put a time on it and you don't make that deadline, you feel like you miss it. So in the near future, before I'm done working at the National Aviation Heritage Area, I would like to see the National Park acquire that property. What they will acquire is the first two buildings, which were the original Wright brothers structure. GM and Inland Manufacturing, which had become Delphi, had built buildings 3, 4, and 5. Those will be staged for redevelopment. The organization that I work for, the Alliance, has entered into a $2.2 million partnership with the city of Dayton to do site prep. So you can think of that as fence removal and a little bit of demolition and a little bit of utilities and a little bit of road improvement and a little bit of exterior lighting. And then the city of Dayton has also allocated some American Rescue Plan money that I will not be, the Alliance will not be part of, to do some additional work out there. Okay, I'm almost done, people. Those brownies are kicking in. Everyone else, I'm taking a sip of coffee. I don't know, but you know, when you eat a lot of sugar, you want to take a nap after. It's warm in here. People close their eyes. I wave my arms a lot, so I feel like I should be keeping you awake. All right. All right, so let me tell you about 2023, and then we'll open it up to questions. So 2023 is going to be a fun year. I encourage you to get out and about. If there's a place you haven't seen, do it. The National Museum of the United States Air Force will be celebrating their centennial. So you should expect at the museum, they're already scheduling additional events, larger events, special merchandise, and all the things to celebrate 100 years. How fun that last year the Air Force celebrated 75 years and the museum is 100. That's exciting. We also have 100 years of Waco. Waco is an aircraft manufacturer in Troy, and they will be celebrating 100 years in Troy, Ohio. And then the Dayton Aviation Heritage National Historic Park, your National Park Service here in this region, is 30 years in 2023. They've just started celebrating their 30th anniversary. Huge projects that are a big part of the Alliance. The board staff's work is continuing that Right Company Factory. We're also executing a $700,000 project to stabilize the Paul Laurence Dunbar House. Paul Laurence Dunbar was an African-American poet from Dayton. You might know, like, Dunbar Library at Wright State is named for him, and such as that. His home is going through some preservation work, and that is through the Save America's Treasures program in partnership between NAHA and the Ohio History Connection. We're planning for a total eclipse in 2024. Have you heard this? We're going to be in the path of totality. People are going to come and stare at the sun. So we're already buying glasses, planning for parking, because we want those visitors who come to all of our partner sites to not go blind. And then you may also be aware that in 2026, America will be celebrating 250 years. And so America 250 is a national commission, and they have charged each state. So Governor DeWine last year established the America 250 Ohio Commission, and has identified aviation as a major theme for the celebration. So the Alliance board and partners will be helping to plan what that celebration can look like in 2026. So where do we go from here? It's been a joy to be here with you today. Many of you I will never see again. Some of you I will see in the grocery store later today. So what I would ask for you to do is that if you are interested in this work, that you follow the National Heritage Area, Aviation Heritage Area on your favorite social media platform. If you are particularly interested in one of the designated partners, like the Air Force Museum of Carolyn Park, follow them, learn what they're doing, see what their projects and programs are. If you are part of an organization that you think needs to be part of this work, I will be having a brownie and a cup of coffee in that corner. So come talk to me. I want to, you know, Dawn, you know me now, and we can talk. And I want to hear about the things that you're excited about in terms of aviation preservation, advancing our community identity in aviation and aerospace. You know, if this fires you up, if you're like, I love this stuff, I love being in Dayton, this is where my career was in, this is, I'm an engineer, I'm a pilot, doesn't matter what you were. If you love this, know that these organizations out there need help. They need donors, they need volunteers, they need advocates. And so I encourage you to think about the ways that you might want to get involved and champion this cause for all of us, so we can continue to advance our region for everyone. So thank you. I'm done. Do you guys normally do like a Q&A? Okay, I see one right here. It's Tom. I'm ready. The Heritage Area is a 501c3. We serve as a fiscal agent for some specific projects. We also raise money for the Right Company Factory and to advance the collective work of the Heritage Area. So yes, I will take your checks. I did not ask him to ask that question. What else? Is there anything else you guys want to hear about, or?
Often for running, for birding, and it's, to me, it's like just a cool thing that the history's there. That's like the added value, not why I go, but I still love it. And I am perpetually amazed at how few people know it's there, let alone how to access it. And I've always felt that is one of the biggest inhibitions of why people don't go, is they don't know how to get there. Specifically, you have to come in through the Twin Lakes Golf Course, and the signage is kind of it's only like, it's on the chain link fence. There's like a sign that's kind of small, and I've always thought, like, why isn't there like a more like instead of a sign on a fence, one that's, you know, horizontal, that you can very easily see? It's like, this way, Huffman Prairie, this amazing thing. And it just, I don't know, it's just so weird to me, especially because they've done so much work restoring it ecologically. They just got rid of all the honeysuckle out there. yeah, people don't even know it's there, let alone how to get to it. Is there anything being done like how do we get more people there? Yeah.
Leaders in the room, I did not ask him to ask this question, but let me tell you. Thank you for the question. Your experience is one that is seen and heard, and for numerous years in partnership with Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, there has been a coalition of partners trying to change the way we get into Huffman Prairie Flying Field. You're exactly right. People get stopped by security. People don't know where they're going. So what that means, and I'll just tell you who the partners are, because you're going to actually, if any of you involved in the Dayton Development Coalition's PDAC process, you're going to see it in the upcoming project. So it's not, I'm not telling you anything that's not public. So the partners who are working on that right now are the base, Five Rivers Metro Parks, Miami Conservancy Districts through the property owner, the National Park Service, and the National Aviation Heritage Alliance. And this last year, we went for money to do the design and study of extending Kaufman Road, which is off 444. The people who know the roads well, I see you nodding, you know them. It's over by, so if you extend Kaufman Road off 444, you can go to a road called Marl Road, M-A-R-L, and you can take that right into Huffman Prairie Flying Field. This is a project that's been happening for a long time, and it's a phased project. And the base has completed their phases, which included the construction of a bridge over Hebble Creek, which would allow for bus tours, heavy equipment. You know, the bridge had to be strong enough. And the base has done everything that they need to do inside the fence.
So you're talking about, sorry, just to clarify, extending Huffman at the far end where it dumps into the 444, it would continue over that where Five Rivers has like a little building.
There's a little maintenance shed right there. So you would come in right there and then take, if you're coming on Kaufman, you would turn and drive, and you're already using Morrow Road, but it's a different way to get to Morrow Road. So you wouldn't go by the trap shooting, the golf club, the security fence. You would have more of an entrance sign. So this past year, the partners went for federal lands access program money. Oh, another partner is ODOT, because they have to do the signaling on 444. And I know I'm really in the weeds, but Rick Ferralis is back there sitting there. I was like, I tell him that I need help. Maybe he'll help me. He's now home. I didn't ask for help fast enough. So what we're trying to do is find the federal, the financial resources. The federal lands access program application did not get awarded. So we continue to advance that with hopes of one day of completing that multi-phase project. So you're absolutely right. And those are the partners who want to get this done. And we've got the will and the partnerships, the support of the base. We need the money. So thanks for your question. I actually had that on voice memo. Any other planted questions out there that will help me advance my agenda of raising money and building roads? Yeah. Oh.
So I know you said you appreciate your alliance, I guess, with North Carolina. Wouldn't you agree that their license plate messaging is a little fraudulent? Every time you see one and mark it out.
You know what is hard about First in Flight is we all love alliteration. It's just so snap. You know, like First in Flight. So I hear you. And man, you asked me if I want to take a Sharpie to their license plate. That's a very specific question. We don't currently have a Sharpie in my glove box, but maybe I should put one. But you know what I do? You know, your point taken is I do notice it. I notice when people from North Carolina are in this region because I see their license plates. I see when they come to the national park. the Wright Brothers National Memorial in Kitty Hawk far exceeds our attendance here in Dayton, Ohio. And so my heart and brain and my board tell me that it's better to work with them and have them and us collectively saying you have to go to both Ohio and North Carolina to get the whole story. Now, does that mean that I won't throw a little side eye at that person when they're on the highway? No. But I do believe that partnerships are always good. And so we will continue to work with those partners. That did not answer your question at all, but you could take a Sharpie to them. Would you like, that's my question to you. Would you like to take a Sharpie to their license plate? There's that license plate.
Denny, can take it afterwards. It's 1:05. I want to be. Do you mind answering a few after it?
Isn't it true that Ohio provided the brains, North Carolina provided the wind?
That's true. T-shirts and back to
Dave, you stick around. She'll like ask afterwards. Ma'am, thank you so much. Sorry I cut out there. I always take it as testament to a good presentation when there's a lot of questions. So thank you so much. Really briefly, there is no meeting next week. Club Assembly on December 2nd. The greeters for that week will be Pete Landrum and Mr. Jack Henderson here. Let's see. Keep on Facebook and beavercreekrotary.com for other updates. Board meeting immediately following. She said she'll stick around for a few more questions. She already signed it. We're going to donate this book to the library on your behalf. Thank you, Beth, for coordinating that. The book is What Was the First Thanksgiving? And I think with that, is there anything else for the good of the club? Okay, with that, we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance. Would you lead us? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Oh, wonderful Thanksgiving, and please be safe, everyone. Do you see when we messed up our license plate and they had it backwards and it was North Carolina's ODOT and said, well, we wouldn't expect them to know they weren't first in flight. And I was like, oh, that's cheeky and I love it.
What? It's that kind of cheeky dialogue that actually
it works with most people. Yeah. They're getting attention, you're getting attention, and